Hello, everyone. It's Jesse Jager with the with the TPS Solidarity Committee, and welcome to our action. Actually, this will be the recording of the action that we took. For those of you that weren't able to join us at earlier on Monday for the live action to call our congressional representatives to stand in solidarity with TPS holders. Um, Recording it a little bit differently this time because we tried to do it on Zoom, record the Zoom gathering, and that didn't work out just the way we wanted it to. So we're trying it again using a slightly different platform. So thank you for watching this video. Thank you for taking action to support TPS holders across the country and during this important time in our communities. I want to do a quick shout out to Yoritza Gonzalez, the policy manager at Congressional, one of the organizations that stands in solidarity with the National TPS Alliance, for helping us put this presentation together. We adapted it off of something else that she did. So I'm going to give a shout out to Congressional and to Yoritza for her help on this document. So yeah, it's an important time for our TPS friends, neighbors, and family members. Really critical things going on right now. You know, we started out the beginning of 2025, at the beginning of Trump administration, nearly 1.5 million people had protection under the TPS temporary protected status program. As of right now, that protection is down close to less than a million people. Nearly 900,000 people have already lost their temporary protective status. And some of the key dates over the last year, just to point out. So our brothers and sisters from Honduras, their TPS was terminated in September, along with those from Nicaragua. Nepal, folks from Nepal lost their TPS in August of 2025. And then a group of the Venezuelan folks lost their TPS in November of 2025. Right now, and we're going to talk about this case in a little bit. Haitians and Syrians, their case is going to the Supreme Court, and they could lose their status here shortly. And TPS for El Salvador and another group of Venezuelans is set to expire this fall in September and October. So critical crisis moment right now for folks that have been living in this country for decades under temporary protective status, and we're really wanting it's time to step up and work to try to get a permanent solution, try to get permanent residency passed for TPS holders. So a little bit about what's going on with the litigation. Our allies are kind of the larger group with the National TPS Alliance have had two cases that they've been working on. One is NTPSA 1 versus NOM, which covers folks from Venezuela and Haiti. The other is NTPSA 2 versus NOM, which is Honduras, Nicaragua, and Nepal. Both of those have been making their way through the lower courts. We've been seeing some favorable rulings on that, but the current status right now is that folks are currently not protected under that temporary protective status, and that could change pending the case that's coming up. SCOTUS, the Supreme Court of the United States, has decided to take up one of the other TPS cases. This one, there's two of them. One is Mullen versus Doe, and then Trump versus Moit. These cover a group of Syrians and Haitians with temporary protected status. And this court case will be seen have a hearing by the Supreme Court at the end of April. The National TPS Alliance is joining this case. Their lawyers with the ACLU and others will be part of the team arguing this case. So it's a unified front. But we can't sugarcoat it. This case has some really serious consequences for all the other cases. Part of what's getting talked about here and part of what could get decided here is if the court system at all has a role in being able to decide cases as it relates to immigration policy. If the court system can engage with immigration at all, which could be a pretty huge and transformative decision. So it's a crisis moment right now on the fate of things when it comes to litigation. The case that gets heard at the end of the month could impact all other cases, which means we really need to get our work done. There'll be times at the end of the month. We're going to be trying to gather as many folks as possible in Washington, D.C. We'll hear more about that coming up hopefully soon. We don't have an exact date. We know it's the last week of April, likely April 29th, but we're going to be trying to gather people at the steps of the Supreme Court to stand in solidarity with TPS holders from all over the country who need us. Now, we know that the court case has always been um, uh, a way to delay, to give time, to give room to work towards more permanent solutions. And that's what today's calling is about. Well, that's what we're trying to do today in terms of reaching out to TPS to our congressional representatives. What we're looking for is a permanent path to a permanent residency for TPS holders. And there's really four bills that are in Congress right now in the Senate and the House that address that. One is H.R. 1589, which is the American Dream and Promise Act. We'll get into details of these a little bit more as we go on. The other is Senate 2106, which is the Secure Act. The other is H.R. 4393, which is the Dignity Act. And the last is H.R. 4696 or Senate Bill 2468 called the Registry Act. So the American Dream and Promise Act has been introduced by our ally Sylvia Garcia, a Democrat from Texas. It has 212 Democratic co-sponsors and one Republican co-sponsor. This bill provides a path to permanent residency for people with DACA, TPS, and DED and other eligible immigrant statuses. And its current status is in the Education and Workforce Committee as well as the Judiciary Committee. The Secure Act, which is in the Senate, is introduced by our ally Chris Van Hollen, a Democrat of Maryland, and is co-sponsored by 34 Democrats and one independent, Bernie Sanders. This bill allows qualified nationals of countries that has had TPS or DD designation to obtain permanent residency. This is in the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, one of the big differences between all these bills is length of stay that you have to have been in the country to get to be qualified. So we'll talk about those in just a little bit. The Dignity Act has been introduced by Maria Elvira Salazar in actually a Republican from Florida. It has 20 co-sponsors and 19 Democratic co-sponsors and 19 Republican co-sponsors. It has a couple parts. One is the DREAM Act, which provides a path for permanent residency for dreamers. So not TPS, but for dreamers. But then it has added on the Dignity Act, which the bill establishes a 7-year deferred action program for undocumented residents who have been continuously in the country in the United States since December 31st of 2020. Under this program, participants pay a $7,000 fine, and then once they've completed the program, once they've successfully completed the program, they must apply for the dignity status, and then that creates a pathway towards permanent residency. It does not guarantee U.S. citizenship. This too is in the Judiciary Committee. And then there is the HR 4696 or Senate Bill 2468. This is the Registry Act. And this was introduced by Zoe Lofgren and Alex Padilla. It's got co-sponsors, got 46 Democratic co-sponsors. And this provides a path for permanent residency for people who have been in the country continuously for 7 years. Basically, it is a renewal and kind of amendment to the provisions of the Immigration Act of 1921. That act only went back to 2021, right? You had to have been here since 2021, which not a lot of people these days that would qualify for. But what this does is basically edits that up and creates this kind of 7-year window by which if you've been here for 7 years, then you have a chance to become a legal permanent resident of the United States. The big difference between these bills is the 7-year is the American Dream Act and Secure Act. You have to be for 3 years. The Registry Act and the Dignity Act, there's more like 7 years. So this is what we're actually taking action on. Those sides there, what those bills, that's what we're trying to do is we're trying to work towards a permanent path to residency. That's the longer term fix. Supreme Court case, the legal cases, that's about delaying us so we can get to these permanent pieces of action that we're trying to get people to take. And that's where you come in. We need you to reach out to your legislative leaders, our congressional senators. So this is the goal for our ask today. This is the goal for our actions right now. What we want you to do is to set a goal of making 4 phone calls. One, we want you to call your congressional representative. We want you to for your House seat in your local community. We want you to also call your 2 senators, your 2 U.S. senators for your state, and then we want you to pick one other person. Now, if you don't know how to find that information, it's super easy. If you go to congress.gov, you put your address in into the little find your congressperson box there. It'll tell you exactly who you are, who your representatives are, and then what their contact information is. We also want you to do those 3, your 3 main for your state, and then pick one other person. All right. And what we mean by one other person is these are the committees that these bills are in. So if you're interested in talking about the American Dream and Promise Act, call the committee chairs for the Committee on Education and the Workforce. That's Tom Walberg, Republican. He's the majority chair. And then Robert Scott is the minorities chair. Phone numbers are right there. Take a second, write those down if that's what you're interested in. If you're interested in the House, in the Dignity Act, that's in the House Judiciary. That's with Jim Jordan or Jamie Raskin. Their numbers are right there. And then there is the Secure Act or the Registry Act. That's in the Senate Judiciary Committee. That's Dick Durbin or Chuck Grassley for that. So just take a minute. There they are. Write those numbers down for who you want to be as your 4th person. So your goal, 4 phone calls, your local folks, and then one of these committee chairs. What's the ask? Well, we want them to be an intentional advocate for the TPS community. And this really can cross partisan lines, right? We want them to be an ally to TPS community members because TPS community members have really been important parts of our local communities, and we want them to be able to stay and keep on doing that. We also want their district offices to help support TPS holders. A lot of case management happens in congressional offices to make sure people in their district get what they need. Help address delays in work permits. Help address challenges with employers. Help with issues that might exist around Social Security or driver's license renewal or real ID, things like that. Finally, we want them to support one of these bills, become a co-sponsor, commit to supporting them. So again, that's the House bill, which is the American Dream and Promise Act, or the renewal, the Registry Act in the House, or in the Senate, it's the Secure Act or the Registry Act, the Senate version of the Registry Act. And we've got a script right here for you. You can adapt this to your needs, or you can just read it right off the script here, right? Big part is getting them. We want, if you can, try to get to their legislative director or a person that is engaged with immigrant rights and addressing immigrant issues in their office. And then if you can't get directly to them, leave this message for the legislator themselves, and you can get that right here. When you're done with your call, we're asking you to scan this QR code, and we'll send the link out with this when we send the email out with this video to let us know how the phone call went. Did you just leave a message? Did you actually talk to someone? Who did you talk to? What was your sense of that conversation? Are the questions that are asked in that form? And then finally, stay connected to what we're doing at the TPS Solidarity community. You know, the beautiful thing about the National TPS Alliance is it's really leadership is for and by TPS holder. We are an authorized committee of the National TPS Alliance, meaning that we are working actively in solidarity with the National TPS Alliance and with TPS holders. We don't do anything without the direct permission and a part of the overall strategy for the National TPS Alliance. So get connected with us. You can find us on Facebook, QR code there. And then if you want to get more involved, please take our member survey to get engaged there. Now, thanks again. Sorry if you missed the call. We had some mess ups with the timing with some of the software there, but these are all the instructions you can do. Make those phone calls, fill out those forms, and let us know how you can you can engage further with us here in the National TPS Alliance and with the TPS Solidarity Committee.